Welcome back to Movie Trailer Reviews Podcast. This is your host, Kriss here, and I got Ro, Brandon, and Shanna, and we got the full crew here. We are here to review Alita Battle Angel. A deactivated female cyborg is revived but cannot remember anything of her past life and goes on a quest to find out who she is. That's funny. Directed by Robert Rodriguez, and the writers are James Cameron and a bunch of other people. Everybody knows how I feel about this film, so I'm going to let everybody else go first because I have spoilers on why I don't like this fucking film. So I'm going to tell everybody when to cut off when I go into this. So you guys talk about this film.
Yeah, so Shanna, you go ahead and go first because Ro typically has to go first, but now it's two women, so we can just roll the dice. So Shanna, go ahead and go.
Okay. So I saw it the other day with my friends. It was a fun experience with my friends. We laughed a lot. I don't think we laughed at the places you're supposed to laugh. But I personally, I enjoyed the action and I enjoyed the special effects. The story, it was there. It was a story. That's it.
I'm going to keep my comments to myself about this because...
That's all I got.
Why are you keeping your what the hell is the point of us all getting together to talk about the damn movie? You're gonna keep your comments to yourself.
We're all gonna be quiet.
I don't want to bring up the man that swims, but she's like, it's got a story. There's a story. I'm like, but that ain't no story.
It's not about the thing.
Don't make me defend Aquaman. That film had a fucking story. Right? This film does not have a fucking story. I hate Aquaman, and that film has a goddamn story.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Given the story that was presented to me in that movie, I was not deeply invested in any of the characters necessarily. And that's the thing is, and every time I felt like they were trying to get me deeply invested in the characters, I could feel them trying.
This is true. Now, these are facts.
Those are
it's
facts.
Like the music is swelling. Don't you feel emotion? And then I would start laughing.
You know what I think about that? Everything in this movie, literally everything is CGI, even the emotion. Even that is CGI. But okay, is that it?
Yeah, that's all I got.
All right, what you got, Ro?
I like the movie. It does not have a quote unquote story. It has a loose narrative. I wish they had kept more of Yukito Kishiro's story from the original because he in fact has a story. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was actually well cast for the girl who was doing all of the body work for Alita. Everybody else who was Rosa Salazar. Yeah, Christoph Waltz was in fact himself. But I really felt like they had all these opportunities to follow the paths to actually give you a story of somebody who is trying to discover who they are after having been woken up and realizing that their memory is gone. But they have all of these muscle memory things they can do, like some of the most amazing katas and martial arts ever. But I didn't really necessarily care for that because I came to this movie hoping for really good action sequences and the possibility that they were going to build to doing some of the more greater elements, like the whole Hunter Warrior storyline. I felt like this movie was really just setting up the building blocks and framing out the world.
Oh, so you mean it's like a prologue?
Yeah, I really felt like it was just a prologue. You know, they were telling you who we were. They were giving you a kind of an idea about what Iron City is and who all the players were. And then they were eliminating the people who aren't going to make it past this movie, like Vector. Vector is the on-world bad guy played by Mahershala Ali. But there's a big bad known as Nova. And, you know, and then you've got the people who were associated with Vector, like Hugo, her, you know, sweet, streetwise, thieving ass friend played by Keenan Johnson. And so they gave you all these different elements of what you needed to set up what the life is like in Iron City. And I thought that was really beautiful. And I thought it was amazing to find out that they had actually used physical sets to do all of these things on, because I felt like that gave it a little bit of more depth and realism than some other people, especially when you take into consideration this movie is at its base level a test for Weta. And to see whether or not Robert Rodriguez in the driver's seat at the director's chair for this epic adventure to come, because we didn't get an epic adventure here, would work. And I feel like it worked. I don't feel like I was supposed to be overly emotionally invested, but I was invested enough to want to have to see her kick more people's ass. So I was a little disappointed that we didn't get more of the Ito, Alita, hunter warrior mentor relationship that develops in the middle, towards the end of the first act into the second act. I felt like they overplayed some of the other elements for how they wanted to, they overused flashbacks. They could have had us having things in real time, but that would have actually required them to have a present tense contemporary narrative, which this movie doesn't give you. And I don't know why. Well, I do know why. It's because it's James damn Cameron. But
I would like to say that I did finish it and think, I'm totally going to see the next one.
I did too.
Which is a shame, but I think it was because I finished it and I was like, I clearly did not get the full story, so I got to see the next one and know what is actually happening.
That's not a good film.
Yeah, I had fun, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they gave me the best version of this story and film that they could have. I felt like visually and kinetically, with the way the movie was put together, from the direction to the cinematography to the CGI and the VFX being put in, I was okay with what they had built for this. I felt like sticking to the idea that Alita is more of a Ronin type character was the right path to put her on. But outside of that, they overplayed the wanting to do the father lost daughter story. And I feel like all the other elements didn't really gel the way they could have, because they didn't use them properly, because they were so hung up on that. And then they got hung up on the Alita Hugo angle. And I'm very happy with how that ended, I will just say, because I don't like insta relationships in movies.
We have to talk about Hugo. We really have to talk about him.
I mean, we can talk about him. Let's talk about him.
I mean, damn, can I get an opinion? Because good God.
My bad, nigga. My bad, bro.
What the fuck? Look, Shanna has to go. Okay, like, we don't have
Shanna can't go. Shanna must. That's right. We can't waste Shanna's time. Okay, Brandon, go. Go, Flo.
Okay.
Go.
I hear all these negatives about big ass too, and here's my thing.
Oh, Jesus.
All I wanted was fighting. So when I walked into the theater for Rollerball 2, Cyborg Fu, all I kept thinking was, if they just have good ass CGI fight scenes, I don't give a fuck about anything else. Because when they did that cheap ass Wall-E Dig and Discovery opening with Christopher Waltz, with no type of explanation or narrative about anything going on here, and how my man wasn't being crushed by falling debris of metal chunks while doing this. And supposedly he's also supposed to be doing it like secretly, but he's the only fucking human doing it in wide, plain, open view. I was like, oh, this movie is stupid. Okay, cool. These fight scenes better be fire. And they did, and I think they perfectly cast people's faces to be in this scene, in this film, for those fight scenes. I like seeing Ajax's face again, and I like that he was the fucking villain. I thought Rosa Salazar did a good job when she knew where to look at, because they did, for them to be directing, they definitely weren't directing her big eyes to be looking in the right place all the time. Ken Johnson, I'm still not sure he knew what film he was in specifically. And it kind of calls back to when we interviewed them at New York Comic Con. He was just kind of sitting there at the table. So I kept thinking about that while watching this movie, and I was kind of like, he's just kind of sitting there at the table during this movie too. And then there's scenes where he's supposed to be building a story for himself, or there's supposed to be something going on with his character that I'm supposed to carry back. Like he's the pretty boy slip back thug character, whatever. And I'm just kind of like, but none of that's believable.
Okay.
He looks manicured. He's the most manicured white boy on the screen right now. So I don't believe any of that. But is these fights fire? Yeah, these fights are fire. And then if you sprinkle a little Mahershala Ali on it, I'm cool with it. I can deal. I thought the black woman that played the Christopher Waltz nurse or helpful nurse or partner. I thought she was cool. I wish they'd had more of her. I wish I'd have got a little more information about her. I thought that the scene, again, I can't talk about this enough. Sometimes they make movies like this where they promise you that there's going to be action. Like they literally put Battle Angel in the title of this. And all I kept thinking was, she better be a motherfucking battle angel. I swear to God. And when they did the first fight scene, I was like, okay. When they did the bar fight scene, I was like, okay. Yep.
But see, I wanted more. I mean, they were so good. I was like, that it just felt like a tease. So again,
because it was definitely too fucking long. Like they definitely could have done just a bunch of fight scenes. But I feel like this film also let me know that any fucking thing that they tell me about why they can't do an all Transformers movie is completely bullshit now. These motherfuckers had better looking CGI dogs than the fucking Predator film. So there's no way you're going to tell me that you can't do a whole fucking Transformers film where, Cybertron has cyber dogs on it. Like that shit would work. They were in this movie. I don't know how they got to Earth. I don't know where Bumblebee was, but that's fine. I can deal with all of that. My biggest issue with the film is Rachel Conley. Like, I just don't know what to do with her character.
We will not disrespect Jennifer Connelly like that. We will not disrespect the star of Labyrinth. We have to disrespect
this Dark Crystal because listen, I love
Labyrinth. I'm sorry, did you just say Dark Crystal? No, Labyrinth?
I will cut you. It's Dark Crystal.
I'm going to cut you.
I love Jennifer Connelly. I do.
Shanna, when are we getting plane tickets? Because I really feel like we have to beat him now.
He comes to the West Coast yearly. So.
He looks like sculpted ashes walking through this movie. And I just
Whoa. Direct all your comments to @PhenonBlack on Twitter. Wow.
Jennifer Connelly is an amazing actress, but not here, guys. So come find me.
I mean, she was one of the best parts of the movie.
What did you want from her? What did you want from her that you didn't get that makes you think that she wasn't present and doing what she's supposed to in this movie?
A character that makes sense.
Why do I care about her character?
But why do you care about any of them? This movie. That's not.
Because they can fight. I only care about the characters that can fight. I don't care about the ones that can't fight. That's why I didn't care about Kenny.
Well, we care about her character because your characters that want to fight can't fight without their doc, and she was the tinkerer. She was the doc. So that's why you care about her.
She ain't tinker nothing but her own emotions and wanting to get the Zion throughout this movie, and that's fine. She wanted to be Lauryn Hill. That's cool, but I'm not for it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So upset with you. I'm so upset with you. Anyway,
he wrong. He wrong. All of that.
I just would like.
Oh
to
my
say,
God, Jesus save us from Phenom.
I'm moving on. I just ignore him. I would like to say that Hugo.
Okay,
I had a really big issue with the fact that Hugo is who he is. And we all know, we can see it all coming a mile away. But they really tried to act like these reveals were big reveals in the movie.
But James Cameron always does that when he writes a story. I don't know whether or not he doesn't understand how to have a substantive relationship between friends, let alone romantically. But he always thinks he's being sneaky with what his twist is going to be or what the big reveal is going to be. But he's telegraphed it from the first introduction of the character.
Oh my God, it was so ridiculous. I was sitting here I already know exactly how this is going to go from literally the moment that they meet. And then when it happens, the way the music goes dun dun dun.
Did everybody did you laugh? Because I laughed.
I laughed so hard.
That's why I said I don't like. I'm not necessarily a big fan of instant relationships if you can't build them in such a way that they actually have a purposeful use in the story. And there was no purposeful use for him in the story other than make her really understand exactly how much trash people are around her, and then maybe make her second guess things in her relationship with Ito that she didn't need Hugo's half-ass, self-serving ass comments to get. The only purposeful use he had is that point where he took her on that trip with his friends to the lake. And they could have found some other damn way to get her ass there without Hugo, and for him to introduce her to Murder Ball. I know it's Motor Ball, but I really felt like we were just watching Murder Ball, and it was Murder Ball.
Is that like a big part of the anime? Because I'm coming into this completely blind.
It's a huge thing in Cyberpunk.
Rollerball. I didn't care about Rollerball at all.
It's a huge thing in Cyberpunk. This is one of the reasons why I said that they really kind of rushed through and focused on the wrong elements. At least I felt it's like in Iron City, there are certain ways that you make your money. There are certain ways you make your living. There are certain ways that you keep your head above water. And one of them is Motorball. And Ito has a love-hate relationship with it, and his relationship with his ex-wife, played by Jennifer Connelly, and
damn is right.
Look, Nick. Okay, you're gonna be out here. Your girl gonna have to file a missing persons report on you by the end of con. I can see.
Well, they'll find me before they find her acting job.
Oh God. Okay, look, she plays a stoic, bitter ass, self-centered woman.
She plays a G flat.
Why is she bitter and self-centered though?
She plays a G flat. You need to stop.
Because she got kicked out.
Why did she get kicked out?
Her original home city, because her daughter was flawed, and they sent her to Earth.
But why
to live in Iron City?
But why is that a rule there? Oh wait, we don't ever explain that? The movie never explains that.
You want narrative threads? You want narrative threads? I already said it's a prologue, nigga. Ain't none of this shit in the prologue of a book. Ain't never there.
Okay. Right, but you're cheating because you're using written facts.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Everything I told you was in the movie. Everything I told you was in the movie. Everything I said was in the movie.
So people should
pay. Was it presented with a kick or a punch? Because if it wasn't in the movie.
So people should pay. It was pay $10+
for you
to go see a prologue. Okay.
I would go pay to see the action and the visuals of the movie. I'm not going for the story. I never go to the story. Look, it is an American-made cyberpunk movie based off not American material and translated by someone who barely understood what the hell he was reading. Okay, this motherfucker I don't care. James Cameron originally said he wanted to do Alita like she was the Joan of Arc.
He never read that though either, bro.
Why? See, I really need James Cameron to stop being himself, and because people validate his stupid. He thinks he's doing something way loftier.
High art. He thinks he's doing high art, and he's not.
He's really not.
This Japanese cyberpunk manga is bomb. If you haven't read Gundam, people, add it to your list. Get your hands on it. I mean, it's ridiculous. And Yukito Koshiro is the man. And God bless the fact that James Cameron had to get his blessing on the original narrative understanding of what direction he wanted to take this character, because he mostly took the character, less so much the whole story elements, and he got shot down on what he thought was the narrative underpinnings and motivations of this character. So we can all just say, thank God he told this person. Well, I think we could, I'm thinking of a futuristic Joan of Arc. And homie looked at him and said, no.
So basically the film could have been worse.
Say what?
So basically the film could have been even worse.
This film could have been painfully worse. Look, this is truly just a prologue. They are introducing Alita. They're showing you her skill set. They are giving you enough of a taste of her past, and I think the way they give it to us is the stupidest way possible. But let's be real, it's James Cameron's favorite fucking way to give story development for a woman, because I think he's actually afraid of 3-dimensional character development wherein there's a vagina involved. Yes, I said it. Yes, I meant it.
Is when he's been with a woman who ends up becoming a director later on in life and does better work.
Mm-hmm. He's so simplistic, and I'm just gonna say it. I blame white people. I blame white people for letting these
validating him
think they're brilliant when actually they're simple. It's like you're the most simplistic, the most rote of storytelling, and somebody has convinced James Cameron that what he is doing is like some deep story about life and the human condition.
All right.
And it's not.
So here's the thing. Like, you guys are absolutely right about James Cameron. But let's not let Robert Rodriguez off the hook here. I like Robert Rodriguez here. But he was right. He's right there with James Cameron and doing the same thing. He wanted the same thing. It's like, look, this film, you're right, it's a prologue. It's really a tech. Remember back in the day, like when you used to get like gaming magazines, they would give you like a little demo disc that you could put into your like Xbox or whatever, and you could play the little demo. Yeah. This film is a 2-hour prologue tech demo, and I'm sorry, that's not a good movie. I get the idea of, hey, listen, it's got the fights in it. It looks pretty. That's fucking great. Put all the fights into a YouTube video. Give me the YouTube video. It's the same thing I said about Transformers 3 when it came out. People were like, well, the fights are okay. Like, put it on a fucking disc and give me that. I don't need to see it sit through a 2-hour, whatever the fuck this is, because there's no fucking story here. Beyond the story, there's no actual villain in this film. Rehearsal is being promoted as a villain in this film, and we're going to say right now, spoilers are about to come in here, guys. If you want to hear spoilers, you might want to cut it off right here.
Hold on, before we do that, I just want to make you a bit more upset. Ant-Man and Wasp doesn't have a villain either.
Which one?
Ant-Man and Wasp.
Yeah, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it does.
I'm sorry, this movie has a villain.
There's no villain in Ant-Man.
No, it is literally it's Ghost. It literally has a villain in Ant-Man and Wasp. There's a villain. She has a motivation. You know what she's doing. You know her story, and it's there. Now you can say it doesn't go any further than that, but they have that there. This film does not. This film does not.
I like Ant-Man and Wasp because it actually flips the villain.
Yes, it flips the villain.
That's what I like about it.
And actually, and then the villain turns into Bill Foster. He turns out to be the real villain in the film. Like, there is a villain in that film. This film, though,
there's a villain.
No,
there's a villain in this film.
Who's the villain in this film?
Bill Foster counts as a villain in this movie. Definitely has.
No. Who's the villain in this film? Because you know his motivation. Who's the villain in this film? No. You can't. You can't. We can do spoilers.
He already said it.
Who's the villain in this film? Who?
Are we spoiling?
Yes.
It's Edward Norton.
Why?
Nova
When?
Nova is the villain.
Who is Nova? What is his motivation? What is he doing?
He lives on the planet in the sky. He's doing experiments, and if for no other reason, he's the villain because the only way you get to where he lives is by the parts that get sent to him.
But you don't know anything about him. But they do not. But you guys know what I'm saying.
And he's the one who puts the bounty on Alita when he takes over Vector. When he possesses Vector.
How did you?
For nothing. I didn't say they did it well. I said there's a villain. The first thing that he does when they get there is put a bounty on her and say, bring her to me dead. When somebody says, I want that person and I don't give a fuck if they breathing, they the bad guy.
So here's the thing. But here's the thing.
You don't necessarily have to know why. His motive was he's like, she knows Panther Cunts from the movie. That's from before the war. She's the last to know it. I want it.
Why?
I don't think you need to have it.
No,
who cares
you do.
About why? You asked if he's the bad guy.
No, if you're gonna have a villain, if you're gonna have a villain in a film, like I'm sorry, I'm just saying this because I know in any other film that does not look this pretty, we would be roasting this film for not having a villain that is well defined and that
Hold on, man.
Because he's not.
No, but we don't do that necessarily all the time because there are a lot of that have terrible underdeveloped villains in them. Marvel was fighting for that with people for years. I don't agree with it, but people were fighting that same shit for years and going to see it. And on the flip side of this, dog, we see a lot of fucking films that promise to have scenes that look this good with fighting and shit, and abso-fucking-lutely do not. So to come from the other side of the line and actually have the fight scenes, but the story is man. Well, I don't see that it to be any different than watching a fucking Kung Fu movie that has an absurd fucking story that doesn't make any fucking sense. But you are literally there to watch the fight scene. Like you could care less about the fucking story.
But I'm
okay with this as a prologue. I know you're not.
No,
I respect the reasons that you are. I don't think that this movie has any strong narrative threads at all.
Well, here's my thing though. Look, any other film, like when we see things like what was it? The Divergent series, fucking what was that? Maze Runner, the Darkest Minds basically goes to the same thing this film goes to, where it just ends to the end, and you're like, oh, so when the film's supposed to be getting good, we're actually going to get a story. You end the fucking film to go, see you guys next film. We roasted that film. This film has the same thing. That film has
absolutely nothing else to give you outside of it.
So because this film looks good, because this one looks good, we're gonna let that one. I just want to know what the rules are.
It's not just that it looks good. The reason why I'm okay with this film. It's really not just the reason that it looks good. If it had looked good and that's it, I would be like, it's pretty. Nigga, you've heard me say it's pretty and have nothing else to say about a movie. For me, I'm telling you, I don't. Okay, I already knew going into this movie I wasn't gonna get Gunham. So once I recognized that I was not going to get Battle Angel Alita, like for real, because the people who are making this movie don't have the wherewithal to give me that, because they will never put their egos aside to dig that deep into somebody's source material and have that much respect for it. Because let's be real, okay. Do you want to know where Alita's damn name comes from? For real?
Sure.
A dead cat.
What?
Alita is named after Ito's cat.
Okay, so here's my.
So when you already know going in that they're going to be trying to manufacture emotion, manufacture connection, trying to build things because this is a very anglicized story. It's not good enough for them that they have this badass cybernetic cyborg, amnesic female cyborg who's found by a cybermedic. He brings her back. She loses her memory. He gives her a name. And through this, she begins to realize the elements of who she is and then build the movie from there. Because that's the manga. That's the manga. He doesn't even try to go down all these extra, as you say, Wall-E opening, because we all know that's exactly what the fuck we watched. He doesn't try to do any of that. So I knew as soon as James Cameron was the one who was here, I'm like, he's going to try to build a backstory. He's going to do a backstory movie. He's going to try to manufacture emotional relationships between people because he doesn't know how to relate to a motherfucker in the here and now. That's just who he is. Robert Rodriguez is not going to buck him. Robert Rodriguez used his money bucking him, saying we're having physical sets and winning that fight. And I think that was a fight worth winning because this movie doesn't work probably the way James Cameron by himself envisioned it working. But because all the things that annoyed the shit out of me about Avatar would be what he would have done with this.
But even then, he doesn't. But even then, he doesn't. But even then, he doesn't explain things.
Hold on. Y'all are talking.
I don't know.
Hold on. Two people talking.
I'm just wondering if there's a sequel already slated.
No,
because
I don't know.
It was super frustrating when I got to the end. I was like, oh, this whole movie was a prologue to the actual story. And once I realized that, I was like, this shit better already have a sequel up and running. Because the problem that I have with James Cameron doing stuff like this is that the fact that we're just now getting a Avatar movie that nobody asked for, an Avatar sequel that nobody asked for, like 15
you can say
years
nobody
later.
wants. You can say wants.
I mean, obviously nobody wants. But this is my thing. So this to me only works if you already have the second part ready to go. You know what I'm saying?
They don't.
And if they're depending on seeing how this film does to decide whether or not to give it a sequel, then I'm pissed.
That's what they're doing, though. That is what they're doing. They're waiting on
to be pissed because, as far as I know, they don't have anything in the works already,
and it's tracking to flop. And so what you have here is it's going to flop. You're going to get the same thing we get with all the other films, like The Darkest Minds, where you have a story here and it's like it wasn't already good, and now you're telling me you're setting up for another sequel. You're not going to get. This film was only made at this point so James Cameron can test things for those Avatar sequels we don't want. That's all this film is for. And that's why it annoys the shit out of me.
I think he might actually do the second one because he is absolutely obsessed with Battle Angel Alita. It's been a pet project for his. This is also one of his 10-year projects. So I don't think that he will abandon this. I think he may have a distribution problem because they were $200 million in and it's slated not to cover. So But I don't think that he will abandon Alita. He's extremely excited to make more movies. I think he might actually do it. I don't know what happens with respect to us getting the movie, but him making the movie, he's in to make the movie, because this has also been one of his passion projects that he said that he's just been waiting on the tech to be able to do it. And clearly this demonstrates that the tech exists. So I don't know whether or not, but realistically, monetarily wise, the movie getting made and us getting the movie, I don't know.
You realize it's not a good thing, though, that he considers this presentation to be like a pet passion project, because there's
no, not the presentation, just this manga.
I don't understand how is that, but I don't understand how that works. How do you have a passion for the manga, but this is the result narratively, not action wise?
Zack Snyder says hi.
Huh?
Zack Snyder's is very passionate about DC characters. He does not understand them at all, which is why we got the DC films we got.
Then I don't think he's passionate about them. Like I feel like that's contradictory.
No, you can be passionate. You can be very passionate about something and not understand.
Did you miss the part where Shanna said we supposed to be blaming white people for this shit?
True.
Because this is just classic mediocre white manning. I love this thing. Oh my God. So one time I went to India and I had this one thing and it was delicious and I loved it and I loved it so much. And then I brought it back here to America and changed literally everything about it to make it not the thing that I loved anymore, but I'm going to sell it to you.
So
and you guys are going to love it.
Can we come up with another word for that then? Because it's not passion and it's not love. You can call it white manning if you want to, but you got to pick something else, because I'm being semantic about this one, because when I hear passion project, like I want to see that in the product that you give me, and I want to know who actually did the production work on this, because that person had a passion for this project. The person who directed it did not have a passion for this project, because he couldn't even tell his actors the right places to look when they were looking at somebody that might not be. Like, I'm sorry. Like the emoting in it, it's so fucking dry in other scenes. The romantic element of this shit is fucking dry. I'm sorry. Like, this is breakup romance.
This is what happens when, at least in my frame of mind, I think this is also what happened with Ghost in the Shell, other than the fact that they put that heifer in it. They really... people
you
feel like
a whole heifer.
Look, I'm trying to be tactful. I got a whole list of names for that broad, but I feel like don't.
You called her heifer and you called her broad. Like, I'm sorry, you do got a list.
I do. Okay, so look, American audiences aren't as shallow as directors like James Cameron think they are. Mm-hmm. But he thinks that we are not going to get attached, quote unquote, in a way that feeds a franchise unless he gives us these cookie cutter emotional elements. So instead of just jumping into the story and giving us Alita and having her be a badass and slowly unraveling that her 300-year past of who she was before. And as she's doing this, having Ito be there and mentoring her through the relationship between the two of them and giving us everything that happens in Iron City and Hunter Warrior, and then giving us her journey as where she goes beyond that and on and on and on. He feels like it doesn't work if you don't start with an emotional connection. And the reason why this doesn't hit the notes, not just because some of the takes they chose, not just because they're looking in the wrong place. You know, sometimes like the chemistry in the scene is off and I'm like, that's the take you kept? How bad were the other takes that this is your take? But they think we need this in order for us to invest in a character. They don't truly understand that we will come to a movie for someone who is pure badass. If they're female, if they make her appropriately the right kind of kick-ass badass character, we will accept her and then follow her story forward. So he's like, oh, I have to give you a backstory. I have to tell you who all these people are. I have to develop all of these men around her.
They don't even do that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and barely did that.
But they don't even do
barely,
that.
He really thinks he did something. He thinks he built this deep father-daughter relationship between Rosa and Christoph Waltz. And the parts that were interesting to me were their Hunter Warrior parts. He does not have his finger on the heart or next to of what really makes this kind of action movie work, whether it's live action or animated. And that's what's wrong with this. He didn't need to deviate from his source material hard.
But even if he
did, I want to know what Kriss thinks about this, because like we've been going, but I've been waiting all week.
Yeah, okay. Pull out the notes, Kriss. We ready.
I want to hear this. I want to get this list.
No, like the first one is like you guys are trying to tell me there was a villain in the film.
No,
there was not a villain. No, I'm talking now. There is no villain. There is no villain in the film, right? You guys are saying it's Nova, but Nova's never developed, and Nova's just there. Is he running like the whole thing with the motorball thing? Is you get the she's at the end of the film. She does motorball, and she's gonna like that's supposed to be her going up to meet. Like Nova at the end. Like, what are we doing with that? Like what? None of that shit made any fucking sense. They just told us that nobody actually makes it up there. Like once you're down the bottom, you never make your way up there. So what's the whole fucking point of that shit? Doesn't matter.
That's not true. That's not true. They said the only thing that's real. They had Ito's character say the only way to truly get there is to win, to be the champion.
Right,
he says that.
Okay.
But then again,
but no.
If that is the only way to get up there, why would he let her?
Well, there's that, but there's that.
He wants her.
But no, but
he wants her.
But wait, hold on.
And he wants her.
Hold on, guys. Hold on, guys. Hold on. Let me.
Sorry.
Can you let me?
Chris's turn.
Because I can actually answer that. Two things. One, Ito says that that's the only way up there, but then at the end. Vector basically tells her, it's like, yeah, all that shit's a lie. No, when people go up there, we're just using their parts. So right there, that's no. So what the fucking point is for winning motorball? But then, like Shanna was saying, why would he let her up? And if the whole thing is, well, he wants her to come up because he wants her parts, motherfucker, you're in control of everything. So let the bitch up. Like, what are we doing? Well, with the whole point of all of this shit, none of it makes any fucking sense. The reason why it doesn't make sense because
who's in control?
Supposed to be Nova apparently, but we don't know anything about the character. We don't know anything about him.
Right. We just know that he controls people.
Wait. How does he control Vector?
That part isn't explained. I can't tell you that. No, I'm just thinking
he possessed him.
How?
Yeah, we see him do it.
How does he control Vector? Wait, hold on.
And that's why I said that's
Let me finish. All right.
Okay.
How does he control Vector? How does he control Vector, but can't control anybody else? Did Vector have parts in him? Like, what's going on here? How did that work? Yeah. Okay. We don't explain that. All right. Cool. What was the whole point with Grishna and those other two cyborgs that were trying to kill Ito? Like, what were they after? What was the whole point of them? Why were they going after Ito? What was that whole thing? When Alita shows up and kind of shows that she can fight, why did that whole thing happen?
Because he was going after a bounty because the flyer that was floating around the city said wanted for murder, the murder of these 6 women. He was following a woman in the hopes of trying to catch the people who he thought were going to kill her. He was a bounty hunter. Right. They were who he was hunting. They set a trap for him.
But why would all three of those work together? Why would they do that? Why?
Because he's powerful.
And why are they trying to kill? Why are they trying to kill humans? Why were they killing humans?
That the three of them. I assumed that the 3 of them were getting parts for Nova.
But why don't I explain that?
That was really what was going on.
Oh, but so we have to assume that we don't actually explain that
because he was a badass hunter. That's why he.
But was he though?
That's why I think they were getting parts for Nova, and then what happened? And I think Ito had tried to probably get there was definitely some history there with Ito, but I think they were getting parts for Nova because then what happened was when they got caught or whatever, then he was protecting the guy and took him off of the
why would he only let one of them be on the bounty list of all 3? But okay, fine. Let's say that.
The other 2 were
But if he needs parts, but he also controls the motorball thing, and they're getting parts there because people are dying there. Why doesn't he also need them to go out there and murder regular human beings?
He's not getting parts just from the motorball people. The motorball people, they were cannibalizing them to give the parts to Vector, not Nova.
Vector worked for Nova.
Vector was hurting people who were in the game because they were fucking with the spread.
Right.
Like, okay, so Ito was a hunter warrior. He's just tracking bounties. They set a trap for him. Only one of them actually had a bounty on their head, but they all wanted to kill him because he's a bounty hunter.
But why?
Because he's a bounty hunter and he goes after them and he turns their heads in for money after he cuts it off.
But
I would really want that nigga dead. I would want that motherfucker dead. I would be okay with teaming up to kill him. And I didn't say they did it well, but that wasn't confusing to me. I didn't miss that. That was actually one of the few things that was straightforward. What wasn't straightforward was how they phoned in the explanation of what it meant to be a hunter warrior. So I get the point that you're making. They didn't give us any of that, and they should have. That's what the movie should have been.
And so if you take that out, then the rest of the movie, it's pointless.
Okay, because
then we get Motorball, and what the fuck's the point of Motorball to go up there and meet Nova? But who the fuck is Nova? And I don't like. What are we here for? What are we doing?
Well, it wasn't to go up to. Hold up! It wasn't to go up to meet Nova. It was to go up to this rich, this paradise.
Is it rich? Is it rich?
Live in the slums. That was the point. The rags to riches story is everywhere.
Is it rich?
Yeah, Zalem. The whole point is to get to Zalem.
Is it rich?
And I think
we don't know. We didn't even see Zalem.
That we didn't get. I think the part that we didn't get. Have you seen that TV show, the one where they switch bodies with Joel Kinnaman?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
Do you mean Altered Carbon?
Thank you. Yeah. I can remember the title. I think basically it's the same thing. It's like Zalem is this place where like the rich live and they feed off of people. So more than likely, I think those body parts, those women that they were getting body parts from, were probably going up to the rich people for whatever. Because he says the part about like being immortal. He's as old as Alita, so he's like 300 years old.
There's a premium on body parts on Zalem.
Exactly. So I just. And mind you, this is just me filling in the blanks and knowing the genre and how these things work. So yes, the movie did not give me this. I figured
this is
out.
Why I'm pissed. He relied a bunch on people making assumptions about things in cyberpunk worlds instead of having him in his movie. I didn't say the narrative is sloppy. It doesn't lack a narrative. It has a sloppy narrative. All of the pieces are in there, but you can miss them because it's sloppily delivered, or the wrong person is telling you who it is.
This is the thing, because it's like this weird thing where I don't need everything explained to me, because like I said, I understand the genre and I know that how these things work. So I don't need every detail explained to me. But also, if your story is not giving me the things I need to understand people's motivations, and then on the other hand, you're giving me all this other shit that isn't compelling. Like, you can't have it both ways. You can leave stuff out for me to fill in the blanks, but then you also have to give me a good story on the other side. And that's not what he did.
That's my complaint. My complaint is the things that he decided to focus on, I didn't care about. And the elements that were real and I did have investment in, he didn't go anywhere with them, or he didn't do the right thing with them. But yeah, there's a villain. Nova's the villain. There's a whole, there's a goal. Zalem is the magical city. It's the last city that still hovers in the air, and it's where you get to live and life is good. So yeah, the rags to riches story. Jennifer Connelly is trying to go back home because, she's one of the few people who knows what life in Zalem was like because she used to live there. So they are able to convince her to do fucked up things because all she cares about is getting back home. And Hugo is trash, and he just wants to do better, and he's willing to whatever you're willing to do. He built the wrong narrative, so it's sloppy. But I want to see what they do with Alita, because I don't think they built Alita wrong. Now, if they could get Rosa to look in the right direction and or take the right cut so it shows her looking at the right person in the right scene to the next scene to scene, I'll watch that, because that's what I want to know. And I now know that they can have her fight, and the fights are going to be badass, and they have good villains, and they've got all this great tech. And I need to know more about Panzer Cuts, because I need to figure out somebody in the real world who can teach a bitch that, because I would really like to be able to hurt people that way, because I'm violent. But Kriss, I get some of it, but the elements are there. They're just sloppy.
But like, what? Why
we're talking about the movie the way we would any other movie.
I don't know. We trashed Aquaman. No, we did.
Yeah,
we trashed Aquaman.
We did.
Aquaman's a better film than this.
I would like to say that
Aquaman's a better film than this.
Aquaman.
Aquaman.
I thought it was fun, but it was empty.
I don't agree with that. Aquaman is a better film than this.
It's a way better film than this.
Aquaman is not a better film than this.
Way better film than this.
Sorry. This fight scenes in this make this a better film than Aquaman for me because that's all I need. I didn't get anything from Aquaman.
But the story, you have a... Yeah.
I don't give a fuck about Aquaman's story. Like, let me make this clear. That story is the most basic fucking fuck-ass King Arthur story I have seen this year.
And what about this? What is this?
Story. I give a fuck about action. I'm going to see a superhero film. I want to see good fights. I want to see action and something compelling as far as like visual effects on the screen. I did not get that from Aquaman. I just did not. Alita Battle has compelling fight scenes in it. They did very good CGI with it. Like, and the fact that you can pull out different moves in the way, like, I'm sorry, man. Like, that's all I give a fuck about.
But I'm saying you can take that out and put it into a YouTube video. You can take that out and put it into a YouTube video. You got all your fights right there. You don't have to pay to sit through a movie for 2 hours. That's really, honestly, not mostly fight scenes. If it was mostly fight scenes, I'd give you that. But that's not what this film does. It is not mostly fight scenes.
It's not, dog. Like, I can't do that with Aquaman. What the fuck am I going to take out of Aquaman? What?
Really? A lot. There's a lot in Aquaman. What you talking about? My problem with Aquaman is I didn't really feel like they capitalized on opportunities they could have. And at the end of the movie, I feel like they've written themselves in some holes that I'm less than curious to see how they get their way out of. And that's the difference between for that movie and this for me. I am curious to see with where they go with Alita next. I am curious to see how they get themselves out of some of the shit that they that they wrote themselves into in the first movie. So for me, yeah, I enjoyed Alita more than I did Aquaman on that basis alone. I'm not gonna not see Aquaman because I'm gonna see it because it's Jason Momoa and I'm a thirsty bitch, so I don't give a fuck. And I'll freely acknowledge and admit that. And there was enough about it. It was fun. But for me, Aquaman is pretty much a one and done. I'll watch Alita again. If for no other reason, I will watch a cyberpunk movie to yell at a cyberpunk movie. A bad superhero movie is a one and done for me. And there was more in this movie for me to watch. And I don't know, maybe I just didn't have as much a problem pulling the threads together enough to be able to just say this is a sloppy ass narrative. They could have done this better. But let me be clear. And let it be that, and just let that be it for me.
But let me be clear. I understood the story. I understand the story. I understand the threads that they were doing. It's James Cameron. It's not original. Like, I understood the threads. My thing here is though, we're like, well, maybe they'll do. Why would we think they're going to do better in the next film?
This is why I agree with you. Like, everything that Rose said up to that point, I don't agree with that. Like, it's still James Cameron. They're going to bring back the same writers. They're going to do, like, a continuation of this will be another narrative shit show, as far as I'm concerned, unless they change him out. If they're not going to get rid of...
Okay, maybe I'm living in the hope that he'll take a step back.
When they ever...
I don't know. Maybe I'm high. Maybe I'm living in hope. It's a futile hope. I just look, I don't know. Listen, maybe it's gonna be trash. It'll be a shit show. Maybe. I really just want them to let her fight more. Is that it? Can I just say I think they'll let them fight more?
No, and I think they can do a chocolate or a raid or whatever. And if they just did that, that would be fine, right? But that's not what's gonna happen. So let me make this like clear where I stand with this film. I think the fighting and the CGI in this film is amazing. I think it does not need a sequel because I don't think they can do it well at all. The only thing that I think they can do is to do more CGI, more fight scenes, and that's cool. But when you really don't have a story to connect to it, after a while, it's just fucking dry. And what I don't want is a Alita Battle Angel Transformers series. We really don't need another one.
God.
I don't want it. Like this film is already on that level, right? It really is. I don't disagree with what Kriss is saying about you could literally make a supercut of this, and that's all you would need. Yes, I like Transformers 3 because I felt like it had the better fight scenes of all of the films. But will I go back and watch that whole movie again?
No.
Just for will I go back and watch that whole movie again based off the narrative alone? No. I'll fast forward to a scene that I like. I'll watch that. I might deal with some of it, but I'm going to fast forward again. It's a background show for me. For this, it's the same thing. The only thing with this is I felt like it had more action scenes in it than that Transformers movie did. Because you really had to wait to get to the third act to get that. And this film makes you wait a good 15 to 20 minutes before you get a good fight scene. And they continue to drop them in where they need them. They're good enough to keep my attention there. Do I feel like James Cameron is going to fix this in a sequel? No. And I don't, and the whole, is he going to get to do a sequel? That's completely up to James Cameron. I agree with that too, bro. Like, I agree with that sentiment. It's completely up to him. If he wants to do another fucking one of these films, there's not a studio that's going to tell him, no, we're not going to do it, because there's a studio getting James Cameron, and people will hype him up just off name alone. They might not go see it, but they'll hype it up like they will off of that alone. This man announced 5 Avatar sequels. He's fucking ludicrous. Okay, he's fucking ludicrous. So I'm not even betting off that. If they don't change elements about who's behind the camera with this film, it's unnecessary to continue on. That's just how I feel about it.
I can agree with all of that. And, you know, if you're going to make me deal in the reality of James Cameron, no, I don't want another movie, because they've deviated so far that I don't think at this point they can integrate certain other elements that are from the manga, which are the really, really great elements about Alita, into the story because of the backstory they gave her. So that's why I said I want to know what they would do, but I don't know if they can undo the mess of this narrative that they've made. It's beautiful. I had fun. I thought it was slightly too long. I'm telling you, it's video porn. We all know it's just really, really pretty, and it's really well done. But yeah, I would watch it. I would tell people to watch it and go have fun. I don't know whether, you know, $5 Tuesdays is a thing if you got AMC cards, but it's not the best I've seen. It's better than others. It really is. And I think that's where I get stuck. No, I don't trust him to do it right the second time.
Look, I fully believe that everybody's going to tell me that, oh no, Kriss, you're wrong, that this film, oh, I enjoyed it. Because everything you guys are saying as far as, you know, the fights being, I know that's going to be what most people enjoy. It's like why people enjoyed Venom and why people enjoyed Aquaman. To be perfectly honest, I get that. I'm just on a short fuse in 2019. I do not have time to sit through 2 hours of bullshit, which is what this film was. It looks great. It looks pretty. That's fine. But they could have done way better, and they should have done way better. And I just can't give them a pass for it right there. And I understand that's just me. Like I can't deal with this kind of shit. And
you're not wrong.
This
though.
film,
you're
annoyed
absolutely
the shit
not
out of me.
wrong to feel that way.
And it's not just you. It's just not just you. They just didn't give you enough to get over that. I get it. It's not just you. And everybody should be over shitty narratives. Maybe I just recognize people aren't going to be. What you whispering over there, Shanna? What you say?
Okay. I'm not even going to give my last thoughts on the film. Like I said in the beginning, I enjoyed the fight scene. The story was whatever the story was. Can we just talk about my favorite scene in the movie? And that would be the flashback to how Dr. Ito's daughter died. Because, my God, I know I wasn't supposed to laugh at that point in the movie, but everyone laughed. Everyone around me. Oh my God. When y'all see how they had this baby girl die.
It is trash.
Like, this makes no sense. This makes no sense. Like, I hope you did not have any sort of like stunt or fight coordinator or anybody. Clearly they were off that day. They were sick, something, because it made no sense. It made no sense. And I was
that whole fat flashback was trash.
Yeah. There was certain things they didn't need to do. But as far as James Cameron goes, I think like when you can pick out the films a director pulled from, and not because he developed his own version of those callbacks or those moments, but he's really just simply paying some cheap homage to them, that you walk into this film and you go, that's absolutely stolen from Wall-E, and he does it for a hot second. This is absolutely now Pinocchio, but he does it for a hot second. That's the cheap elements of the film that would have annoyed me if it did not have the action scenes that it does have in it. And
it still annoyed me.
I'm saying the way it would have if it didn't. I'm not saying it didn't. It absolutely did. And I think it's fucking cheap. And I wish people would stop fucking doing it, because there are writers out here who can write better shit than that y'all refuse to give jobs to for whatever the fuck reason. But you'll hire these writers to write this bullshit. And when you read it, there's no way you don't look at it and go, this is bullshit. So that definitely infuriates me. And it's why I'm not betting on anything coming after this. It's like this film has to flop for them to go, okay, maybe we should do better, and for them to actually look at the audience and read their reactions to it. But in the same vein of what Kriss is saying, the audience's reaction, actually, this takes me back to something you said earlier, Ro, and I couldn't get in to go, when you were like, James, like the American audience is not as shallow as James Cameron thinks they are. The first thing that popped in my head was 50 Shades of Grey and Twilight. And I'm just like, they are when they want to. They're absolutely
maybe I should say they're not shallow the way he thinks they are. Not that they're not shallow.
They might not be as shallow as often.
Not as shallow. Just they're not shallow about the things he thinks they're shallow about. They're not shallow the way he thinks people are. People are shallow, and people will watch trash, and people will have their guilty pleasures, and they'll have their joy, and all these other things. And the bad version of almost every different kind of thing will be the thing that gets made. Yes, I'm talking about 50 Shades of Grey, because if you think that's BDSMD, you should just stay at home and smack yourself. But the way and the things that he thinks people are shallow about are not the things. They're not the right things. People are shallow, and what they'll accept in movies and what they want in narratives it's a mixed bag of what the fuck. And, but he doesn't think he makes popcorn movies. So I don't necessarily give him a pass on that type of stuff. So he should have a better bead and have a better pulse on what he can phone in and what can be shallow in his movies, because he thinks he makes high art, but he's not. And that's why I say it that way. So it's not that I don't think people are shallow. People and moviegoers are shallow as fuck. And what we will accept and what we will give a pass, this movie is a great example of what we will accept and what we will give a pass to. Right here and there in this critic review of all our differing, except Kriss. Kriss is done. He can give fuck.
But that's what I'm saying.
We should make him a t-shirt of saying "fuck your sloppy narratives."
There's one other thing I want to say real quick about this to qualify everything too. I don't fuck with anime, and so I also, for real, halfway through this,
same.
I don't fuck with anime. So no matter what happens, I just can't get into it. And a lot of the anime tropes of this film too don't do anything for me. So I could also caveat that as well, where I'm coming from, so people understand too that maybe my opinion on these things might not be what you need to know to go see this film or not go see this film. Everybody knows how I feel about anime. I just can't do it. I've been tried. People have tried. I've never come across an anime I can fuck with. I just can't.
If it's not for you, it's not for you. But to go back what Ro's saying, Ro, I look at elements of this film and I look at it like this. I'm going to compare this directly to Twilight. The fighting in this, and you're right, like there's elements of this. There's shallowness in this film that audiences are going to love because, like you said, we talked about in this podcast. And directly relative to me, for me to draw a line from Twilight series to this film would be me saying, the teen romance elements in Twilight that, in my opinion, are fucking trash, were perfectly written for a young, dumb audience or any audience that read those books and believes in the relationship between the two main characters and the third in love character as well. So that's what drove those films and all the way they built around those, right? Like, but there's other things in this film that are terribly bad. The main character's acting in those films is terribly bad. The stories make absolutely no fucking sense. The dreariness of it, like it's literally raining through a 5-film series that lasted like 8 years. I know it doesn't rain that fucking much, and when it didn't rain, it fucking snowed. Like, my God, they have other fucking seasons. They're like the opposite of fucking California in the Twilight series. I just don't understand why anyone would ever want to stay there and chop down trees for a living. But I directly look at this film and I'm thinking all of the narrative issues and all of this shit that doesn't make any fucking sense is going to be completely drowned out by the CGI fight scenes for people who care to come see. Like, my God, people love World of Warcraft. And I'm sorry, that movie was awful. That movie pulled from every type of medieval sorcery piece of shit, but sci-fi as well, and did not do it in a good way. But just because it was a World of Warcraft film, people will try to argue that it's a good film. And they'll try to argue it from the standpoints of, I liked it because, but none of that has any bearing, on objectively on if a film is good or not. Like, I feel like some people try to sell the whole films are subjective shit as a way to give people passes for writing terrible shit, because if you like that terrible shit that they wrote, then that makes it okay. But if a 2-year-old comes up with a story and you listen to it and you go, man, that was an amazing fucking story, I'm gonna look at you and be like, he can barely talk. What are you talking about? Objectively, that's a terrible story. But because he's 2 and he's cute, we love him when he tries to tell us things. I get it. I really do.
No, this is what happens when people make bad urban fantasy movies and then want to come talk to me about it. Like, I lost my entire collective black mind over Bright, and people were like, "Oh, it wasn't that bad." I'm like, that movie was shit from beginning to end, and even the soundtrack couldn't hold it together. So I understand what you're saying, and I love manga and I love anime, and the parts of this that they did right, they did very right. The parts that they did wrong, I'm sad that they did wrong, and I think it means that they've cut short the life of what could have been a very vibrant franchise built around Alita. And I'm sad for that. I thought the fight scenes and the parts that I liked were enough for me to say that I like this movie, but it's not enough for me to have faith in them going forward. So I will agree with all of that.
I think really what it comes down to, and what I'm realizing, is when I write, like as a writer, I'm thinking of who my audience is. And for a lot of these films, I can't tell who their audience is. It's like when we talk about DC, it's like, who is your audience? Is your audience the DC fan? Because if it is, you're not writing stuff for the fan. If, you know, like, if it is it someone who's brand new to this universe, okay, it doesn't feel like you're writing for somebody who's brand new to this universe, because you're not talking about like the ideals of what this universe is built on. And so when I was watching Alita, I was like, we would get to these like sappy romance teen scenes. And I was like, is this movie written for teenagers? Like, is that who it's written for? Is it written for like that in between, like 11 to 12-year-old? Because I don't get that vibe from the rest of the film. But then you throw in these things. I'm like, no one is going to be interested in this unless you're somebody who believes that people fall in love in 2 days.
Like, no, he doesn't know who his audience is for this movie. And that's the difference between this and what you were talking about for like Twilight Phenom. They knew who their audience was. They knew exactly what they could get away with. They knew exactly what that source material was like. That woman turned words that should never... She turned adverbs into descriptive words and like used them. She made Greenlee an actual... so they knew exactly who they were dealing with when they were making the Twilight movies. I don't know who the fuck James Cameron was talking to when he was making this movie. He did, for me, he made a nice Ronin. Alita is a great Ronin character.
Not talking to the audience. That's why his producer was talking to him, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I like, look, Robert Rodriguez did the best that what he could with what he had script wise. I have issues with certain things that he did directing. I have issues with certain things on which cuts and edits they chose. And we've already discussed that the score is great, but it doesn't have the emotional impact that they are hoping. But it's not the score's fault; it's the narrative's fault. I think people are going to like what they're going to like.
We've been slandering James Cameron a lot here. Not saying it's not rightfully so. Robert Rodriguez also wrote this script. He also he's also in this screenplay. So
okay, then he's fired too.
Right. We need to share the blame here. Like, this is not, we keep saying it's James Cameron. Robert Rodriguez is director and he also wrote the screenplay with this. He's right in the middle of all this shit too. All right. Just had to throw that out there real quick.
Maybe he wrote the action scenes.
You're going
below up here.
You're fired. Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure that Lita Caldergris was probably responsible for the action scenes. If you look at her filmography, she probably is responsible for the action scenes because she did Altered Carbon.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm telling you that,
and
like,
Birds of Prey.
I think that was also what was frustrating about watching this is like I'm just watching it like filling in the blanks basically because I watched Altered Carbon. And so I'm like, oh, Altered Carbon did this better.
Oh my God, so much better. Altered Carbon also had 13 or 8 to 13 episodes to do it within?
Yeah, exactly. True. But that's the thing. Alita felt like when you got to the end, you were like, okay, so this would be great if I was at home, Netflix, and it was like, are you ready for the next episode?
True.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all this demonstrates is that Battle Angel Alita should have been episodic.
Not with James Cameron attached to it, because every episode would have been 2 hours of
5
minutes of information.
We have already determined that this project is in the wrong hands. I'm just saying, If they were going to do this and they were going to do it right, it should have been done like Altered Carbon. No, episodically.
All right.
Like Altered Carbon.
What are we giving this? Out of 10.
I'm gonna give it a 6. And that is because I really enjoyed the fight scenes. And I'm coming back for the second part, if only to satisfy my curiosity of what happens next.
I'm at a 6.5. I didn't have it's a sloppy narrative that bothers me. It doesn't necessarily kill something for me. I really I love Kristoff, so I have a problem not getting attached to him in movies. And I really like the fight scenes, and it looked really, really, really pretty. And I want to know too, Shanna, so I'm going to go. If they do another, I have to know. If for nothing else, at this point, it'll be a hate watch, so I can be even angrier at him. So I'm at a 6.5.
The action in the fight scenes are easily for me an 8.5 to a 9 out of 10. But that's not the only thing that this film is. And because this film is as long as it is, I've been teetering. I've been thinking about this for like the last 36 minutes, actually. So, it's a 5.5 out of 10.
Oh wow!
It is, man. Like I said, I liked the elements of this film that I specifically liked, and I don't necessarily agree with every argument that Kriss has made, about the villains and all that stuff. But his opposition and why he does not like this film and why he thinks it's a bad movie, for the most part, he's also right. Like, he's absolutely right. But I overlook that shit for the fight scenes. Oh, I don't overlook it. I see it happening, but I had already checked out of that part of the movie. So I have to give it a 0 out of 10 for just like narrative story romance bullshit and not being original in so many things that it did, because it was just cheaply done. And if that's what you're coming for, I can absolutely see why you're going to throw your popcorn at somebody. This is just not it. So if I got to mix those two scores together, don't do the math on that, because I'm sure it's off a bit. 5.5 out of 10 is where I'm sitting at with this.
It's a 4. It's a 4. Like I said, again, I don't agree with a lot of you. I don't agree with a lot of you guys on this, and I definitely do. And you guys know how I felt about Aquaman. I definitely feel Aquaman is a better film. I'd watch Aquaman again before I watch this film.
I'm just sitting over here just grinning, like, look at Aquaman coming back into play.
It's really not a compliment. Really not a compliment. Really not a compliment. Really not a compliment.
And the thing about it too, what I will also say about this movie is, given the fact that I have like AMC A-list or whatever, so really it does not matter to me, I'll probably go see this again in theaters, and just sit there and wait for the fight scenes to come up. And check my phone 3D. In between.
I saw it in IMAX. I think 3D. Did I see it in 3D?
You probably saw it in 3D. I know.
I'm pretty sure I saw it in IMAX 3D, and I think that might be why I was a little bit more forgiving about certain things.
I mean, it's a gorgeous film. It's a gorgeous film. Don't get me wrong. It is. It's a gorgeous film. I had an hour drive home to sit there and think about everything that I hated about this goddamn film. So.
You did have a longer drive home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, they left you with too much time. We left you too much time.
I'm telling you guys right now, 2019 is going to be cranky Kriss when it comes to these reviews. Because
with 2 Ks, cranky.
Yes, because I'll be having like hour. My shortest drive home will always be like an hour at minimum. So if a film is not good, I'm going to have an hour to think about it, and it's just not going to be good. So I'm just letting you guys know right now, cranky Kriss is going to be around during these reviews. So
I'm not kidding when I say we need to make you a T-shirt that says "fuck your sloppy narratives" in 2019, and you should just wear that.
God, what was the last one? It was that other stupid white the film with the dirty white girl who bathed in her own bathwater. What was that stupid film? Untogether.
Oh, Untogether.
One thing we didn't mention about that was the other girl who ate the cucumber off of the old dude's eye.
untogether.
So white of her.
I'm really upset by whatever you're describing.
No, you would love it. No, you would love that film, Shanna. I know you
Shanna,
too well. You would love it.
Shanna, don't let me lie to you like that.
No.
All right, folks.
None of that sounds good. I really need you to put in the description to this episode, Kriss, that Aquaman is better. I just need you. Kriss said, quote, Aquaman is better.
And then in parentheses,
Shanna.
That's not a compliment.
No, in parentheses, and Brandon still thinks it's a piece of shit. Because what she's not going to do is try to act like the vibe of our opinions on Aquaman have changed now that you lead us. No. And Brandon still thinks it's a piece of shit. Like, fuck it. Okay.
Captain Marvel, come save us. All right,
shows
folks.
two then y'all put it all on the line.
Make sure you guys subscribe. Movie trailer reviews. Make sure to subscribe. Movie Trailer Reviews Podcast. Also, sign up for a premium account, MTR Network. Got lots of coming out on premium the rest of this month. Again, thank you guys very much for listening. And until next time, we're out of here. Peace.